Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to be diving into chapters 12 and 13 of Iron Flame. And actually, before we get started, if you missed it, we just started a brand new deep dive series on Sarah J. Maas's Assassin's Blade.
Yeah, we'll put a link to that up in the end scene after this deep dive.
Right. And you might be wondering, why are we doing a second deep dive series when our Fourth Wing exploration is doing just fine?
I mean, honestly, we're just bored, so we're doing another deep dive. We just wanted a little more chaos in our lives, I guess.
Yeah, purely out of sheer boredom and a desire for chaos.
Yeah.
But let's get into today's mission, because the tonal whiplash we are dealing with today is just massive.
Oh, it really is.
We're moving from this intense, high-stakes, emotional standoff at the Samara outpost in Chapter 12 directly into this physically grueling, totally logic-defying return to the Basgiath War College in Chapter 13.
It's a huge shift. We start so far away from the school, and we get to see just the sheer lengths these writers will go to for, just a scrap of freedom. Or connection, really.
Exactly. So we finally arrive at Samara, and Xaden is in this totally brutal situation. He actually has to fight in the sparring ring, taking a massive beating from his own command structure just to get a pass for a 24-hour leave?
Yeah, it's just 24 hours.
Which is why
When you think about what he has to endure physically just to secure that tiny window to see Violet.
Right, and then they finally get together in this tiny window, and it's just this intense, emotional tug-of-war. And I just want to point this out. Violet was the one who was lied to here.
Totally.
But Xaden is the one who's wanting those 3 words from her. Remind me again why he's asking her for those 3 words, because it feels like neither of them wants to give an inch to the other.
Well, Xaden basically wants Violet to forgive and forget. He knows she wants emotional stability and trust, right? But he wants her to trust him while giving her, the absolute bare minimum he can manage.
Which is so unfair. I mean, we know that Violet wants to get back together, and so does Xaden, but she wants full disclosure because of what happened.
Exactly. He wants her to make the first move, basically, so he doesn't have to risk his own emotional safety. He wants the payoff without the vulnerability.
And to Violet's point here, the last time she dove headfirst into their relationship, fully open, trusting, and vulnerable, it ended up costing her dearly.
Oh, massively.
She was completely betrayed by all those secrets kept about Athabine and Rian, and obviously her brother Brennan being alive.
Yeah, she has every reason to be guarded. Her last experience with blind trust literally almost got her killed, so her demand for full disclosure isn't just stubbornness, it's a trauma response.
Right, it's self-preservation. It's like they're playing this high-stakes game of emotional poker. But isn't Xaden's demand for blind trust incredibly unfair here?
Unfair is an understatement.
I mean, he's essentially asking Violet to push all her chips into the center of the table while he's just hiding his cards under the table.
Well, that is the perfect analogy. And we actually have an amazing piece of insight from the Romantasy Chaos HQ deep dive that totally changes the context of his hidden cards.
Oh, really? What did they find?
So they brought up the epigraph at the start of Chapter 12. It's the one where Scale mentions choosing Xaden for his ruthlessness, and she notes that he reminded her of his grandfather.
Oh, right. I remember reading that, but I didn't think much of it.
Most people don't. But if you analyze the lore, this strongly hints at dragons bonding within familial lines. And in this universe, bonding a dragon that was previously bonded to a direct ancestor is the primary catalyst for a writer manifesting a secret second signet.
Wait, wow. So this is direct foreshadowing that Xaden has a second signet.
Yes. Specifically, the ability to read intentions. He's an intensic.
Which is an automatic death sentence in Navarre.
Exactly. So he has this massive lethal secret. He can literally read her intentions during this entire argument. He's heavily armed with information while demanding she disarms completely.
That makes him demanding those 3 words so much worse.
Yeah.
He knows exactly what she's feeling, but he still won't meet her halfway.
Right. Xaden will give whatever Violet wants, but strictly on his terms. He refuses to give up his tactical advantage.
So because of that, the romantic tension just remains totally unresolved. This chapter was honestly all about their relationship, and since they hit a wall, it's a bit of a letdown.
It really is. You want that big reconciliation, and you just don't get it.
Yeah, and actually, before we move on, I want to say that this letdown makes the transition into Chapter 13 so much harsher, because after this emotional deadlock, we are right back in school.
Back to the brutal reality of Basgiath.
Where we get Violet pushed into near burnout by Major Varrish, and reviewers are calling Varrish The Draconis Umbridge, which I totally agree with.
Oh, it's the most accurate nickname ever. He is pure bureaucratic evil.
So just to recap for you listening, Varrish does this because remember, Darna failed to show up for flight practice the week before. So Varrish has been planning Violet's punishment for 2 whole days.
He's just been sitting there eagerly waiting to torture her over a missed class.
Just to be clear, this is a punishment and not actual training, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely a punishment. Varrish doesn't really care if Violet hits the target with her lightning or not. The point is just to make her suffer.
He forces her to channel lightning repeatedly until she's basically cooking from the inside. At this point, I wouldn't mind if Taryn just leaned down and ate him. He is just cruel.
We all wanted Taryn to eat him, but this scene, as brutal as it is, actually has some massive logical flaws. The critique from Jew Montfort really breaks down the anatomy of this burnout, and it is fascinating.
Oh, the thermodynamics of the magic, right?
Exactly. So it seems that the way burnout works is that your body takes a heavy physical toll from channeling from your dragon. And Violet's lightning signet literally overheats her body.
Right. The text says the heat starts deep in her bones and radiates outward, so after the punishment, she's just red all over, like she's severely sunburned.
Right. But let's dissect the real-world science of that. If the heat originates inside her skeleton and pushes outward until her skin physically burns, her internal temperature would have to be astronomically high.
Wait, how are we talking?
Well, human organ failure begins at a fever of about 40 degrees Celsius, which is 104 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, that's not even that much higher than normal body temp.
Exactly. Now, for skin to actually scald or show thermal burns like a severe sunburn, the temperature at the surface has to reach at least 49 degrees Celsius, or 120 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So if the outside of her body is 120 degrees and the heat is coming from the inside out, her internal organs are essentially boiling. Violet should mathematically be dead.
It's like having a space heater plugged into a faulty outlet. The internal wires are going to melt completely before the outside plastic casing even gets hot enough to burn you.
That's exactly what would happen. Her central nervous system would be completely fried in minutes.
But then it gets even crazier because of how Taryn tries to treat her.
Oh, the treatment is arguably worse than the punishment.
He takes this superheated, boiling human body and just dunks her entirely into a freezing cold mountain river.
Which is biologically catastrophic. Rapidly cooling a hyperthermic body in ice water wouldn't just be uncomfortable, it would induce massive physiological shock.
Because the blood vessels would just snap shut, right?
Yes, extreme vasoconstriction. The surface vessels clamp shut instantly, which traps all that lethal boiling heat deep inside her core organs with absolutely nowhere for it to vent.
So he's basically sealing the oven door shut while it's still turned on.
Precisely. She would instantly go into severe shock, likely cardiac arrest, and profound hypothermia. But the book just kind of glosses over it. She walks up the stairs and sleeps it off.
It really takes you out of the story when the biology is that far off. But beyond the bad medical science, there's a massive plot hole here with the dragons themselves.
The dragon agency paradox.
Right. If the world building tells us that dragons are these apex predators who answer to absolutely no human authority, why does the Empyrean allow Varrish to do this?
It makes no sense. Varrish is using his dragon Solus to effectively torture Violet over a dragon's absence. And Darna is a dragon. She makes her own choices.
Isn't Varrish's ability to pull this off completely breaking the fundamental rules of the series? Why are the dragons suddenly acting like obedient pets to a human major?
It completely undermines their established supremacy. And furthermore, why doesn't Solus know that Andarna is in the dreamless sleep? Dragons are supposed to be telepathically linked and fiercely protective of their young.
Yeah, you'd think an adult dragon would know a juvenile is going through a massive biological growth cycle, not just skipping class to be rebellious.
Right. But the plot needed Violet to be tortured to build tension and make us hate Varrish, so the dragons were suddenly forced to care about human military schedules.
It's super contrived. But Violet surviving this whole ordeal really highlights the intense vulnerability of the marked ones at the college, especially now that Aidsing isn't around to protect them.
Oh, absolutely. His absence leaves them completely exposed.
So apparently the foster families who were looking after the younger marked ones stopped training them the exact moment Aizen climbed the ranks at the college.
Yeah, which is such a dark revelation.
It's state-sanctioned attrition. The leadership realized Agden was getting too powerful, so they decided to make sure the next generation of marked kids arrived at Basgiath completely helpless.
It proves the foster system wasn't about mercy. It was just a mechanism for control. Keep them weak so they die off early on the parapet or the mat.
Speaking of Xaden climbing the ranks, I actually have a question about his current military rank. The text notes he's a lieutenant at Samara, but do we know if Xaden is a first or second lieutenant?
The book is really frustratingly vague about that.
I mean, you would assume that since he graduated as wing leader, which is the top student leadership spot, he would have to be the highest rank of the lowest commission tier, right?
Logically, yes. In a real military structure, the top graduate wouldn't start at the very bottom with the cadets who barely scraped by. But because the author blends modern military terms with this fantasy setting, we just don't know how much actual authority Xaden has at that outpost.
It's super blurry.
Yeah.
But what isn't blurry is the immediate danger the younger marked kids are in. Which brings us to Sloane Meary on the sparring mat.
Right, Liam's younger sister.
We shift focus to Violet just standing there, watching Sloane get completely decimated on the mat because she has zero foundational training from her foster family.
And this ties directly back to Liam's death.
Yeah, if it weren't for Liam's last words, Violet wouldn't even be glancing at Sloane. She made a promise as he was dying to look after her.
And you have to remember, Sloane actively hates Violet. She holds Violet completely responsible for Liam dying.
So every interaction they have is just steeped in hostility. Makes me wonder about Violet's motives here.
What do you mean?
Well, it feels like Violet is hovering over Sloane, like a guilty survivor trying to pay off an unpayable emotional debt. Is Violet actually trying to help Sloane survive, or is she just selfishly trying to soothe her own conscience about Liam?
That is a really complex moral question. Objectively, Sloane needs the help to survive. Without it, she will die, just like the state wants.
Right.
But psychologically, yeah, Violet's motivation is incredibly self-serving. The guilt is eating her alive, so she's projecting her need to save Liam onto his sister.
But by forcing her help onto someone who hates her, isn't Violet essentially taking away Sloane's agency?
She totally is. Violet decides what Sloane needs and forces it on her, which ironically mirrors the exact lack of agency the cadets experience under the school's oppressive leadership.
It's like Violet becomes a micro-dictator in Sloane's life just to cope with her own trauma. It's fascinating, but also really messy.
And her desire to control everything and protect everyone is constantly undermined by her own physical limits, which leads us straight into the end of the chapter.
Oh man, the stairwell ambush.
The logic of Basgiath completely falls apart in this sequence.
Okay, so Violet is chatting with her squad in the hallway about classes, and Reddox startles her from behind. And she acts on pure muscle memory, literally nearly slicing his throat open with a dagger before she even realizes who it is.
The text establishes right there that her nervous system is wired for lethal, immediate defense against a surprise touch.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Because literal moments later, they get ambushed in the stairwell for the Rider Survival Course, or RSC, the land navigation class.
Right, the bagmen, senior cadets whose job is to kidnap them.
And how do they do this? A bagman sneaks up behind Violet and loudly yells, "Now!" And Violet, who just showed us she has hair trigger, lethal ninja reflexes, is suddenly bagged and drugged before she can even flinch.
Joe Montfort calls this the reflex discrepancy, and it is glaring.
It makes no sense.
If a gentle touch from a friend triggers a lethal strike, a loud, aggressive shout from an unknown attacker should have caused an exponentially faster and more violent reaction.
But the plot needs them in the woods for the land navigation class, so the author just turns her reflexes off.
Exactly. It reduces a highly trained character to a passive object just to move the story forward.
Considering how lethal this school is supposed to be, doesn't it feel incredibly contrived that a squad of battle-hardened riders gets taken down by kidnappers who literally yell "now" before attacking?
It's completely absurd. They are in a narrow, single-file stairwell. In military tactics, that's a fatal funnel.
Right, it's a choke point.
So springing an ambush there is already a bad idea. But loudly announcing the ambush completely eliminates the element of surprise. It provides zero tactical advantage.
It's like watching a bad action movie, where the director just forgets the hero has superpowers so the bad guys can win a scene.
It really highlights a lack of practical military logic, which is also obvious in the curriculum they discuss right before the ambush.
Oh my gosh, yes, the extraneous curriculum.
Right. So while they're walking, Violet mentions she's leading her year in history, geography, and physics.
And when I read the word physics, I just had to pause. Why are dragon riders taking physics?
It makes absolutely no sense for their actual job.
I mean, they are meant to be elite, highly disposable weapons in a brutal war machine. They aren't going to get jobs at an engineering firm.
No, their life expectancy is terrible. They are shock troops.
So why are they taking a bloated schedule of liberal arts and STEM classes? Why are they taking theoretical physics when they don't even have instruments to calculate running landings in the air?
Exactly. They don't have altimeters or targeting computers. Everything they do on Dragonback is based on physical instinct and spatial awareness.
It feels like the author just copy-pasted a modern American university syllabus into a fantasy war college. Geography makes sense, history makes sense for propaganda, but physics? Come on.
It completely breaks the immersion of this ruthless, practical military academy.
Well, we'll leave off that chapter with the squad getting dragged off to their land navigation class, the RSC. And honestly, looking ahead, I get the feeling that we're really going to miss seeing Xaden again.
Oh, for sure.
His presence anchors the emotional stakes. When he's gone, the tactical and logical flaws of the school really become the main focus.
Yeah, the world-building inconsistencies are much harder to ignore without that intense interpersonal drama distracting us.
So, to summarize the journey for you today, we moved from the intense emotional battlefield of Xaden and Violet's relationship at Samara straight into the fiery, biologically illogical physical torture from Varrish, all the way to that completely confusing tactical ambush in the stairwell.
It is a gauntlet of emotional and physical extremes.
It really is. But before we go, we want to leave you with a final provocative thought to ponder regarding Professor Carr.
Right, Carr is the instructor who finally steps in to stop Violet's burnout torture.
And on the surface, you might think, oh, finally, a good teacher stepping in.
But look at his reasoning.
Exactly. He doesn't stop it out of compassion or morality. He does it because she is a rare, powerful signet.
He argues that her death would be a waste of a weapon. And of course, it could trigger a chain reaction that kills Xaden and the dragons.
Right. So I want you to consider, are the good teachers at Basgiath actually good people? Or do they simply view the riders as military assets to be polished rather than human beings?
It's a really dark way to view the school.
It is. How does this reflect the broader commodification of human life in Navarre? They aren't mentoring young adults. They are performing preventative maintenance on military hardware.
They're just pushing the metal to see how much stress it can take before it warps.
It's a chilling thought to carry into the next chapters. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
And remember, check out the end scene of this video or post for the link to our brand new Assassin's Blade Deep Dive series. We're bringing the same level of chaotic energy over there. Until next time.